Legacy of the Deep, when myth became memory. Welcome everyone. Thanks so much for enjoying today's story. And make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any awesome new videos. Let's set the scene. You're standing on a windswept beach, sand between your toes, salt in the air, gulls crying overhead. The ocean stretches out to infinity, a rolling, restless blue mystery. You know how people say we've explored more of the moon than we have of the ocean? Well, they're right. Down there, beneath the sparkling surface, is a world that would make aliens jealous. Imagine mountains higher than any on land, canyons so deep they could swallow skyscrapers whole, underwater rivers, volcanoes, even lakes at the bottom of the sea. And somewhere, maybe, just maybe, there's a city that everyone's been talking about for thousands of years. Atlantis. Atlantis isn't just a story. It's the story. The original lost world. The city that got away. For some people, it's a cautionary tale. For others, it's a treasure map. And for a lot of us, it's the greatest mystery of all time. But what if it was real? What if buried under centuries of sand and sea, there really was a place where science, magic, and adventure collided? That's what we're here to figure out. Not just by digging up old myths, but by following the clues. Historical, scientific, and sometimes just plain weird. All the way from the ancient world to today's deepest ocean trenches. Let's rewind to ancient Greece. Imagine Athens 2,400 years ago. Marble columns, olive trees, philosophers in togas debating what makes a good life. In this world, stories are currency, and no one spends them better than Plato. He's not your average teacher. He's a guy who can turn a dinner party into a legend. One evening, Plato starts telling his friends about a place called Atlantis. It's an island kingdom. The city is built in perfect circles, rings of land and water, with bridges, canals, and shining temples. The Atlanteans are inventors, artists, warriors. They have more gold and silver than they know what to do with. But as Plato warns, they get greedy. They start thinking they're better than the gods. Bad move. In a single day and night, disaster strikes. Earthquakes, floods, the whole island vanishes beneath the sea. Atlantis is gone. Just like that. Now, here's the thing. Plato insists this isn't just a story. He claims he got it from his ancestor Solon, who heard it from Egyptian priests, who in turn got it from records older than the pyramids. Is it fact? Fiction? A little of both? For centuries, nobody's been able to say for sure, but that's never stopped anyone from looking. Jump forward a few thousand years. The world's changed, but the ocean hasn't. It's still hiding its secrets. Explorers, scientists, dreamers, and, yes, the occasional crackpot have all tried to find Atlantis. Some say it's in the Mediterranean. Others point to the Caribbean, the Azores, even Antarctica. Every time somebody finds something weird underwater, a sunken city, a pile of mysterious stones, someone else shouts, "Atlantis!" Let's make something clear. The ocean does eat cities. Scientists have found real places, like Pavlopetri in Greece, Herakleion in Egypt, and Dwarka in India, that sank beneath the waves centuries or millennia ago. Sometimes it's an earthquake. Sometimes a tsunami. Sometimes the sea just rises and takes what it wants. Each time a diver swims through a ruined street, the legend of Atlantis gets a little more believable. But what if Atlantis wasn't just one place? What if it's a collage? A little bit of truth from here, a little bit of legend from there. Almost every culture has a story about a flood, a lost land, or a vanished golden age. Aboriginal Australians talk about land that disappeared under the sea. The Hindus tell of Kumari Kandam. The Aztecs remember Aztlan. Even the Irish have tales of High Brazil, a magical island that pops in and out of reality like a magician's rabbit. Science is finally catching up. At the end of the last ice age, sea levels rose more than 400 feet. Entire continents of land, places where people lived, hunted, and built, are now underwater. Off Britain, there's Doggerland, once a green plain full of mammoths and marshes, now just a memory beneath the North Sea. In Southeast Asia, the Sunda Shelf was once a vast homeland, now home to fish and coral. So, when Plato talks about a city that sank, he might not be spinning pure fiction. He might be remembering, through generations of stories, something that actually happened, even if the details got mixed up over time. Let's talk about the clues. Plato's Atlantis was beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we call the Strait of Gibraltar, where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Mediterranean Sea. Some researchers think Plato was describing a real place on the edge of the known world, maybe inspired by the Minoan civilization on Crete. The Minoans had wild technology for their time, multi-story buildings, plumbing, written language, and art that still dazzles today. Then around 1600 BCE, their world exploded, literally. The volcano at Santorini blew its top, sending tsunamis racing across the sea. Minoan cities were smashed, and their civilization never recovered. Sounds familiar? But there are other suspects. Helike, a wealthy Greek city, sank after an earthquake and tsunami in Plato's own lifetime. In Spain, the lost city of Tartessos vanished from history, leaving ruins and rumors. In India, Dwarka's ruins lie underwater, watched over by crabs and fish. And then there are the real head-scratchers. Off the coast of Japan, divers found the Yonaguni Monument, a set of underwater terraces and steps that look almost man-made. Are they ruins, or just rocks shaped by the sea? The debate rages on. Meanwhile, scientists use technology that would make Indiana Jones jealous. Satellites scan the ocean for lost islands. Sonar paints 3D pictures of the seafloor. Robots and submersibles dive deeper than any human can go. They've found shipwrecks from Roman times, World War II subs, and occasionally, something that looks like it shouldn't exist. Picture the scene on a research ship. The crew is tense, eyes glued to the monitors. Sonar pings echo through the hull. Suddenly, a strange shape appears. Round, regular, just like Plato's city. Divers suit up, hearts pounding. They descend into the blue, flashlights cutting through the gloom. Is this it? Atlantis at last? Maybe. Or maybe just another mystery for the books. But it's not just about old rocks and lost cities. Atlantis is loaded with meaning. It's about pride and downfall, sure, but also about hope. Every time a new generation hears the story, they start dreaming. What if we could find it? What if we could learn from it? What if we could do better next time? Atlantis shows up everywhere. Movies, books, video games, and theme parks. It's a city of adventure, a place where anything can happen. In some stories, it's a paradise lost. In others, it's full of gadgets, monsters, or ancient wisdom. Every version is different, but the heart of the legend stays the same. A world that vanished, waiting to be found. Now let's add some suspense. Imagine you're on a modern expedition. You've got the best tech, the smartest crew, and a tip from a fisherman who swears he saw strange ruins while diving for lobsters. Your ship bobs over a sunken ridge. The sonar lights up. There's something down there. Your robot dives, sending back eerie images. A row of pillars, a collapsed arch, maybe even a statue covered in coral. The world watches as you livestream the discovery. The chat explodes. Atlantis found. Conspiracy theorists rejoice. Archaeologists argue. The mystery deepens. Because even if you find something incredible, there are always more questions. Who built it? Why did it vanish? What else is hiding in the deep? Let's be honest. Sometimes the ocean just likes to mess with us. Nature can carve rocks into weird shapes, and shipwrecks can pile up in ways that look like ancient streets. But that doesn't mean we should stop looking. In fact, The not knowing is half the fun. And what about the science? At the end of the last ice age, Earth went through wild changes. Ice melted, seas rose, and coastlines shifted. People lost their homes to floods and earthquakes. Imagine watching your village disappear under the waves. Wouldn't you tell your kids? Wouldn't you want them to remember? Over time, those memories become stories, and stories become legends. Flood myths are everywhere. The story of Noah, the Epic of Gilgamesh, tales from India, China, the Americas, Australia, all talk about a time when the world was drowned. Plato's Atlantis fits right in. Maybe he took a real disaster, dressed it up with philosophy, and sent it down the years. But Atlantis is more than a warning. It's a celebration of what humans can do. The Atlanteans built wonders, sailed the seas, and reached heights no one thought possible. That's inspiring. It's a reminder that every generation stands on the shoulders of those who came before. Let's fast forward. Today, cities like Miami, New York, and Shanghai face rising seas. The lesson? Don't get cocky. Nature always has the last word, but the future isn't set in stone. We can learn, adapt, and maybe avoid Atlantis' fate. The coolest part? The story never ends. New discoveries happen as Solgepen every year. Maybe tomorrow, a diver will find a sunken temple, or a satellite will spot a lost city buried under the sea. Maybe that kid on the beach will grow up, become a scientist, and make the next big find. Atlantis is more than a place. It's a question, a dare. It asks us to look deeper, dream bigger, and never stop exploring. It's a call to adventure, and anyone can answer. So next time you stare out at the ocean, remember, the world is full of secrets. The greatest stories haven't all been told. And somewhere, just beneath the waves, the next chapter is waiting. But let's crank up the adventure a notch. Imagine a world-renowned oceanographic crew prepping at dawn on a wind-whipped dock. There's the grizzled sonar expert with a mug that says, "Trust me, I'm a sonar wizard." The rookie diver who still gets seasick, and the linguist who can read ancient Greek, Egyptian, and, on a good day, a takeout menu. Their boat is loaded with drones, high-tech cameras, and enough snacks to survive a week at sea. The mission? To chase down the latest lead. A shadowy circle on the sonar, buried beneath silt just off the coast of an uninhabited island. As the boat motors out, the anticipation is electric. What will they find this time? Maybe just a pile of rocks, or maybe, just maybe, the ruins of a city that once dazzled the world. The sun rises, the crew jokes to calm their nerves, and the ocean rolls on, indifferent and eternal. Meanwhile, back on land, a team of researchers hunches over maps and dusty manuscripts. They argue about Plato's clues. Beyond the Pillars of Hercules, larger than Libya and Asia combined, gone in a single night. The linguist points out that Plato loved a good metaphor, while the geologist reminds everyone that continents don't just sink overnight. The debate is friendly but fierce, fueled by coffee stronger than Poseidon's wrath. They compare notes with explorers from India, where stories of a sunken city called Dwarka fill the old epics. In Wales, there's talk of Cantre'r Gwaelod, the Welsh Atlantis said to have vanished beneath the waves after a careless gatekeeper left the floodgates open. In Japan, the Yonaguni monument stirs rumors of underwater pyramids built by a forgotten people. The more they look, the more they realize. Every culture has its Atlantis, a memory of greatness lost and mysteries waiting to be found. But where does myth end and science begin? That's where things get really interesting. Scientists now know that at the end of the last ice age, the world was a very different place. Sea levels were much lower. The coastlines we know today were miles inland. As the world warmed, ice melted. Oceans rose, not in a day, but fast enough to force whole communities to pack up or perish. Marine archaeologists have found stone tools, hearths, and even footprints on what's now the seabed. In the North Sea, Doggerland was once a green expanse connecting Britain to Europe. home to mammoths, hunters, and maybe, just maybe, a few legends that would one day become Atlantis. In Southeast Asia, the Sunda Shelf was a lost world of rivers and forests, now home to deep-sea fish and silent ruins. Every time a diver or a robot brings back a shard of pottery or a carved stone from the deep, the line between history and legend blurs a little more. Could Atlantis have been one of these drowned lands? A real place, remembered in stories and transformed by time into myth? Let's not forget the wild cards. There are always wild cards. Off the coast of Spain, satellite images show strange patterns, circles, lines, shadows that don't quite fit natural geology. In the marshes of Doñana National Park, teams have found ancient structures that could be the remains of a city built in concentric rings, just like Plato described. Is it Atlantis, or just a coincidence? The only way to know is to dig, dive, and keep an open mind. And the search isn't just for ruins, it's for stories too. In libraries from Cairo to Cambridge, researchers pore over ancient texts looking for clues. They analyze DNA from ancient bones, searching for traces of a people who might have vanished beneath the waves but left their mark in our genes. They listen to oral histories, passed down for centuries, where echoes of Atlantis hide in tales of floods and lost homelands. Meanwhile, the world watches. News crews camp out on the dock, ready to broadcast any discovery. Kids at home tune in, hoping for a glimpse of lost treasure or a sunken temple. Social media explodes with theories, memes, and debates. Is this finally it? Is Atlantis real? But the ocean doesn't give up its secrets easily. Sometimes the sonar pings are just rocks. Sometimes a promising wall turns out to be a shipwreck from a more recent storm. Sometimes the only thing the divers bring up is seaweed and a story to tell at the next dinner party. Still, the search goes on. Because Atlantis is more than a city. It's a symbol. It stands for everything we've lost and everything we hope to find. It's a reminder that no matter how much we know, the world is still full of mysteries. It's about curiosity, resilience, and the sheer stubbornness of the human spirit. Let's shift gears for a moment. Picture a bustling city. New York, Tokyo, Mumbai, full of people, lights, and life. Now imagine it vanishing overnight, swallowed by water, remembered only in stories. That's the heart of Atlantis. A warning about pride and disaster, but also a promise that even when things fall apart, the story continues. Atlantis is everywhere in pop culture. In movies, it's a glittering underwater metropolis guarded by mermaids and sea monsters. In comic books, it's the home of superheroes and villains. In video games, it's a level full of puzzles, traps, and secret passages. Each version adds something new to the legend. Jetpacks, magic crystals, lost technologies, or ancient wisdom. But let's be real. The truth is probably messier and more fascinating than any story. Maybe Atlantis was never just one place. Maybe it's a tapestry woven from hundreds of stories, each a piece of the puzzle, each a clue to how humans have always tried to make sense of disaster and change. As we learn more about the past, we're also learning about ourselves. Today, scientists use everything from underwater robots to satellite imagery, from ancient texts to DNA, to piece together the story of our world. Every new find is a step closer to understanding not just Atlantis, but the great adventure of human history. And what if one day we really do find it? What if a diver's flashlight catches the glint of a golden statue, or a robot camera pans across a sunken plaza where Atlanteans once walked? Imagine the excitement, the headlines, the documentaries, the debates. But also imagine the questions. What can we learn from them? How did they live, love, and lose it all? And most importantly, how can we do better? Atlantis isn't just about the past, it's about the future. As sea levels rise again, as cities face new challenges, the legend becomes more urgent. It asks us to be humble, to respect nature, to remember that no achievement is permanent unless we care for it. So here's the real secret. Atlantis is a journey, not a destination. It's a story that belongs to everyone. Whether you're a scientist, a storyteller, a gamer, or just someone who dreams big, Atlantis invites you to dive in, ask questions, and never stop searching. And who knows? The next big discovery might be just around the corner, or beneath the waves, waiting for someone bold enough to look. The research ship rides the swelling blue, its hull creaking, sunlight glinting off the water. Below deck, the crew gathers around a glowing screen. The sonar sweeps a new sector. Suddenly, a regular pattern emerges. Not just rocks, not a shipwreck, but a series of rectangles and arcs, like the ghostly blueprint of a lost city. The mood shifts from coffee-fueled banter to electric focus. Could this be it? A lost city, hidden for millennia? The divers suit up, breathing deep, checking their gear. There's a hush as they slip overboard, bubbles rising, hearts pounding. The water closes over their heads, and the world goes silent except for the sound of breathing and the faint ping of the sonar. They descend through shafts of light into the blue-green gloom, eyes scanning every shape below. Suddenly, the outline of a wall appears, mossy, encrusted with coral, but unmistakably straight. One diver shines a light on a carved symbol, half erased by time. Another spots a pile of pottery, shattered but clearly shaped by human hands. The camera records everything, sending images up to the ship, where the crew erupts in celebration. It's a discovery, maybe not Atlantis itself, but proof that great cities can, and did, vanish beneath the waves. Back on deck, the team examines the footage. The linguist squints at the carved symbol, comparing it to ancient alphabets. The geologist looks at the stonework, trying to guess its age. The rookie diver, still shivering with excitement, can't stop grinning. "We're going to be famous," someone jokes. But deep down, they all know. What matters isn't fame, but the story. The connection to people who lived, loved, and lost everything to the sea. That night, as the ship drifts under a sky full of stars, the crew gathers for dinner. The cook serves hot soup and fresh bread, laughter echoing across the waves. Stories are swapped about storms survived, weird fish spotted, old expeditions that found nothing but mud. Every story, every laugh is part of the legend. The rookie asks the captain, "Do you really believe in Atlantis?" The captain just smiles. "I believe in mysteries," she says. "Atlantis is just the biggest one." Meanwhile, news of the discovery spreads. On shore, journalists scramble for interviews. Kids build models of the lost city for school projects. In classrooms, teachers use the story to talk about history, geography, and the power of imagination. On the internet, debates flare up. Was this really Atlantis, or just another city lost to time? The legend grows, fueled by curiosity and the human urge to wonder. But the adventure isn't over. Far from it. The next day, the crew sets course for another site, a place where old maps hint at more ruins, where local fishermen tell tales of strange stones visible at low tide. The search goes on, each new clue leading to more questions. Let's zoom out for a moment. Across the world, other teams are searching too. In the Mediterranean, divers explore the ruins of Pavlopetri, a city that vanished 5,000 years ago. In India, marine archaeologists study Dwarka, long thought to be legend, now revealed in stone and coral. In the Black Sea, scientists lower cameras into the inky depths, finding shipwrecks and, sometimes, the outline of buildings long forgotten. And everywhere, the same question burns. How much of our world's history is still hidden? How many stories are waiting in the dark, waiting for someone to shine a light? Atlantis is more than a place. It's a riddle, a spark, a challenge. It dares us to look beyond the obvious, to dig deeper, to listen to the whispers of the past. It's a reminder that even in an age of smartphones and satellites, the world is still full of secrets. Back on the research ship, the crew celebrates, but they also plan. What tools will they need for the next dive? How can they preserve what they've found? What questions should they ask the local elders, whose families have fished these waters for generations? Every small discovery is a thread in a tapestry that stretches back thousands of years. And then, there's the unexpected. One night, as the ship drifts near a forgotten island, the sonar picks up something strange. A perfect circle, deeper than any ruins they've found so far. The crew jokes about sea monsters, but there's a nervous excitement in the air. What if this is it? What if this is the clue that ties all the other stories together? The next morning, as the sun rises, they prepare for the deepest dive yet. The divers' hearts pound, the boat rocks gently, and the sea seems to hold its breath. They descend, lights cutting through the gloom until, there it is. Not just walls or pottery, but a gigantic stone ring, carved with symbols no one recognizes. The rookie diver gasps, his voice muffled by the mask. The camera rolls, and the world above holds its breath. Above deck, the linguist and geologist study the images. The captain radios the mainland. "You're going to want to see this." News spreads. Emails fly. The legend of Atlantis, once just a story, has gained a new chapter. But even this, they know, is just the beginning. Word of the discovery spreads like wildfire. Before sunrise, scientists from every corner of the globe are calling the ship. Journalists camp out at the nearest harbor, hoping for a soundbite or a sneak peek at the footage. Social media lights up, hashtags trend, wild theories swirl, and memes of Atlantis found start popping up faster than anyone can keep track. On the ship, things move from celebration to serious science. Samples are logged and cataloged with painstaking care. The stone ring's carvings are scanned by laser, uploaded to a growing archive, and sent to experts in languages so ancient, most people have never even heard of them. The team debates. What do the symbols mean? Are they maps, prayers, or warnings? The rookie diver still can't believe he was the first to touch them. He messages his mom, "I think we made history today." But Atlantis fever isn't just on the boat. Back at headquarters, a team of computer whizzes builds 3D models of the site, reconstructing what the city might have looked like. Artists sketch out sweeping plazas, towers gleaming under a Mediterranean sun, bridges arching over canals. The images go viral, sparking a fresh wave of excitement. Kids start building Atlantis out of Legos. Teachers download lesson plans. Even late-night comedians get in on the act, joking about Atlantean Wi-Fi and underwater pizza delivery. But while the world dreams, the crew gets back to work. The ocean isn't done with them yet. Storm clouds gather, the waves grow choppy. The captain gives the order to secure all gear and brace for a rough night. As lightning flashes and rain pounds the deck, the team huddles below, sharing stories. The linguist wonders aloud if the Atlanteans ever faced storms like this. The veteran diver grins. "If they built a city out here, they must have been tougher than us." The next morning, the storm is gone, leaving the sea glassy and calm. The crew launches a new probe, this time aiming for the heart of the stone ring. The robot's camera glides over the carvings, then slips through a narrow gap into what looks like a tunnel, lined with blocks too perfectly cut to be natural. The video stream gives everyone goosebumps. It's clear now. This wasn't just a pile of rocks. Someone built this. Someone lost it. News spreads to the mainland. Archaeologists, historians, even skeptics line up to join the next leg of the expedition. Funding pours in. The government of the nearest country sends a message of cautious congratulations, hinting that if the city is real, it could change everything, from textbooks to tourism. Back on the boat, the linguist spends hours comparing the symbols to everything from ancient Greek to long-lost scripts from the Middle East and India. The geologist runs tests on the stone samples. Where did they come from? How old are they? The answers are tantalizing. The stone isn't local, and the carvings don't match any known language, but they show hints of mathematical knowledge far ahead of their time. The crew's excitement is contagious, but so is their humility. Every answer leads to more questions. What happened to the people who built this place? Did they leave before the ocean took their home, or were they caught by surprise? Did their descendants carry their stories to other lands, to Egypt, to Greece, to India? Is Atlantis just one of many lost cities, or is it the granddaddy of them all? Meanwhile, news crews set up on the nearest island, hoping for a glimpse of the returning heroes. Locals share their own stories, of fishermen spotting strange shapes beneath the sea, of old songs that talk about a city swallowed by the waves. An elderly woman tells the rookie diver, "My grandfather said there was gold under the water. Maybe he wasn't just spinning tales after all." The world's experts fly in. There are heated debates in packed lecture halls, interviews on TV, and more than a few wild conspiracy theories floating around online. Some claim it's proof of alien visitors. Others insist it's an elaborate hoax. But most people, from scientists to school kids, just want to know more. As the weeks go on, the expedition grows. More ships arrive, each with their own team of specialists, marine biologists, architects, historians, and even artists. They map every inch of the site, discovering streets, plazas, and what might have once been a temple at the city's center. They find pottery, tools, jewelry, all eerily well preserved thanks to the mud and silt. One day, the robot finds an inscription, long, winding lines cut into a slab of stone. The linguist nearly faints. It's the longest text found so far, and it looks like a message from the city's final days. The world waits for a translation. Was it a prayer for rescue, a warning, or just a record of daily life? The days blur together. Every new find brings more media attention, more questions, more excitement. The site becomes a symbol, not just of Atlantis, but of what happens when people from all backgrounds chase a dream together. And then as the sun sets on another day of discovery, the captain calls the crew together. "We've come a long way," she says, "but the ocean's bigger than any one city, any one legend. There's always another mystery out there. Atlantis was lost for thousands of years, but we found it. What else is waiting to be discovered?" The crew stares out at the endless blue, the stars coming out one by one. They know the journey isn't over. The ocean still holds its secrets, and now they're more determined than ever to uncover them. Weeks pass. The expedition site becomes a kind of floating city itself. Ships from different countries bobbing side by side, scientists swapping coffee, translators puzzling over the mysterious script, and local fishermen trading stories for a peek at the new discoveries. Drones buzz overhead, mapping the site in 3D, while divers in high-tech suits glide through what was once a bustling metropolis. The mood is electric. On the main ship, the linguist finally cracks a part of the long inscription. It's not a prophecy or a curse. It's a list. Inventories of food, records of festivals, names of people and families. The city was alive until the end, full of ordinary moments and extraordinary dreams. Historians share the translation online, and people around the world begin to connect. Kids in schools write letters to the expedition, asking what life was like in Atlantis. Musicians compose songs inspired by the carved names. One even goes viral, becoming the unofficial anthem of the dig. Artists send in sketches, imagining Atlantean festivals, markets, and games. For the first time, Atlantis feels real. Not just a lost city, but a place where people lived, loved, and hoped for tomorrow. On deck late one night, the rookie diver sits with the captain, sipping tea beneath a sky thick with stars. "Did you ever think we'd find it?" he asks. The captain smiles, shaking her head. "I always thought the search was more important than the find. But now that we're here, I wonder what comes next. What will people learn from Atlantis?" The answer comes sooner than expected. As the site is mapped, it becomes clear the city was built for both beauty and survival. Canals channeled water, gardens grew food, and wide streets allowed for quick evacuation. The engineering is advanced, smarter in some ways than what modern cities manage today. Urban planners and engineers tune in, taking notes. Could the secrets of Atlantis help protect our own cities from rising seas? Meanwhile, the media circus reaches a frenzy. Hollywood producers call, hoping to buy the rights to the expedition's story. A famous chef volunteers to recreate what Atlanteans might have eaten, based on seeds and bones found in the ruins. A fashion designer launches a line inspired by Atlantean jewelry. The world is hooked. But the crew is focused on the science. Every day brings more discoveries. Divers find a small sealed jar perfectly preserved in the mud. Inside are seeds, plants that disappeared from the region centuries ago. Botanists are thrilled. Maybe some of these ancient crops could be revived, helping to feed people in the future. A marine biologist on the team studies the coral and fish living around the ruins. She notices species that don't exist anywhere else. Maybe they evolved alongside the city, protected by its walls and canals. The discovery could help scientists understand how life adapts to change, and how we might protect the oceans today. And then there's the mystery of why Atlantis fell. The evidence is everywhere. Collapsed walls, jumbled pottery, signs of fire and flood layered together. The geologist builds a timeline, matching the disaster to a period of intense earthquakes and storms thousands of years ago. It wasn't a single dramatic night, but a slow, relentless battle with nature. The Atlanteans tried to adapt, but in the end, the sea won. Still, the city's story isn't one of failure. The records show people leaving, migrating, spreading their stories and skills to new lands. Some names from the inscription even turn up in old texts from distant cultures, proof that Atlantis' legacy didn't vanish, but lived on in the people who survived. As the dig winds down for the season, the crew gathers for one last night together. They laugh, sing, and tell their own stories. The adventures, the mistakes, the moments of awe. The rookie diver, now a veteran, thanks the captain for believing in him. The linguist gives everyone copies of the translated inscription, so the names of Atlantis will never be forgotten. In the morning, the ships head home. The site is marked and protected, to be studied for years to come. The world waits for the next chapter. More discoveries, more questions, more adventures. But for now, the legend of Atlantis has a new ending. It's not just a story of pride and loss, but of resilience, creativity, and the power of people working together. The city beneath the waves is no longer just a myth. It's a mirror, showing us what we can achieve and what we must remember as we face our own storms ahead. And out on the open sea, the search continues. Because if Atlantis can be found, what other wonders are waiting in the deep? As the research ships pull away from the site, leaving a trail of foam across the sparkling water, the world feels changed. News outlets replay the story on a loop, highlighting not just the artifacts, but the teamwork, the excitement, and the sense of global community. Overnight, the lost city becomes a symbol of possibility, a reminder that even in an age of GPS and Google Earth, there are still blank spaces on the map. In classrooms from Boston to Brisbane, kids reenact the expedition, building cardboard submarines and debating whether they'd be brave enough to dive into the unknown. A science museum puts up a special exhibit, and it's packed every day. People lining up to see 3D models of the city, touch real pieces of ancient pottery, and try their hand at decoding a copy of the mysterious inscription. The world's curiosity is on fire, but there's more to Atlantis' legacy than headlines and hashtags. The translated inscription inspires a wave of new research. Historians dig into old legends, finding new links between distant cultures, shared myths, similar words, even echoes of the Atlantean names in the roots of modern languages. It's as if the story of the lost city has been hiding in plain sight, just waiting for the right spark. Urban planners, architects, And climate scientists pay special attention to the city's clever design. They study the canals that moved water safely through the city, the raised foundations that protected homes from floods, the public gathering spaces that helped the community stay strong during hard times. Conferences buzz with excitement. Could ancient solutions help us face rising seas and climate change today? Maybe, just maybe, Atlantis's greatest gift is not gold or treasure, but ideas. Back on the coast, the rookie diver, now a minor celebrity, gets invited to schools, libraries, and science fairs. He tells his story with a grin, always finishing with the same message. You don't have to be an expert to make a discovery. You just have to be curious and brave enough to ask, what if? Kids line up for autographs, some already dreaming of their own adventures. Meanwhile, scientists keep working. The seeds from the sealed jar are sent to top labs. Within months, a few sprout, tiny green shoots from a world long gone. Botanists are thrilled. The plants are hardy, nutritious, and could thrive in salty soil. Maybe the food of Atlantis could feed people again, in places facing drought or flooded fields. The marine biologist's research on the unique fish and coral starts making headlines too. She finds that the ecosystem around Atlantis is more diverse than anyone expected, with species that might help fight pollution or even inspire new medicines. Suddenly, protecting the site is about more than history. It's about the future of the ocean itself. As the seasons change, the world's attention shifts, but the impact of Atlantis lingers. Students write essays about teamwork and perseverance. Artists keep dreaming up new visions of the city, blending ancient and modern ideas. Writers spin new stories, adventures set in lost worlds, mysteries waiting to be solved by the next great explorer. And the crew? They haven't stopped searching. The captain leads a new voyage, this time following rumors of another sunken city on the far side of the world. The linguist joins a project to compare symbols from Atlantis with markings found in caves deep inland, wondering if refugees from the city carried their language with them as they walked to safety. The marine biologist teams up with conservationists, working to protect the rare life around the ruins. Everywhere, the message is the same. The world is still full of mysteries, and anyone, no matter where they're from or what they know, can be part of the next discovery. And so, the story of Atlantis becomes something bigger than a legend. It's a spark in the dark, a reason to look deeper and dream wilder. It's a reminder that even when things are lost, they're not always gone forever. Not if we're willing to search, to listen, and to learn. Late one night, as the old research ship rocks gently in a new harbor, the crew gathers on deck. They share a quiet moment, watching the stars and listening to the waves. The rookie diver, now a seasoned explorer, looks out at the horizon. "Do you think there are more cities out there?" he asks. The captain leans on the rail, eyes twinkling. "I'd bet my last mug of coffee on it," she says. "The ocean's got secrets it hasn't even dreamed of telling us yet." And somewhere far below, the ruins of Atlantis rest in the gentle current. The city is silent, but its story echoes everywhere. On land and sea, in science and art, in every heart that still believes in adventure. Months roll by, but the ripples from the Atlantis discovery keep spreading. The world's appetite for exploration grows. Documentaries air in every language, sparking new clubs and after-school programs for kids fascinated by history and the ocean. Atlantis becomes a catchword for possibility. If that mystery could be solved, what else is out there waiting for someone to take a closer look? Meanwhile, the expedition's findings start to shift how people think about our own cities. Mayors call in engineers and architects who studied the Atlantean ruins. Suddenly, ancient ideas are being used to help design new waterfronts, with smarter canals, green rooftops, and public squares built for community and resilience. Atlantis style becomes a buzzword, not for luxury or lost treasure, but for clever, sustainable living. In a university lab, a group of students uses the data from the Atlantean site to create an augmented reality experience. Anyone with a smartphone can now walk through the lost city, exploring its streets and plazas, seeing the past come to life before their eyes. A mural showing a festival by moonlight, a set of musical pipes, a cache of letters sealed in clay, their words still legible after thousands of years. Each artifact brings the ancient world closer, connecting hearts and minds across time. But Atlantis' real gift isn't just in what's uncovered from the mud and silt. It's in the way people everywhere are inspired to look at their own world with new eyes. In coastal towns threatened by rising seas, communities borrow Atlantean ideas, building higher, planting flood-resistant gardens, and designing neighborhoods to be strong, flexible, and united. If they could do it, so can we, becomes a rallying cry. In schools, students design their own versions of lost cities, blending science, art, and storytelling. A global contest for cities of the future draws millions of entries. Some are fantastical, full of floating parks and glass domes. Others borrow details straight from Atlantis, canals, courtyards, and clever ways to share water and resources. The lesson is clear. The real treasure of Atlantis isn't gold or jewels, but knowledge. Knowledge passed down, rediscovered, and shared. The story of a lost city becomes a guide for saving our own. And Atlantis' story keeps growing. New books and movies reimagine the city, not just as a place of pride and downfall, but as a beacon of resilience and hope. A blockbuster film breaks records, telling the adventure from the perspective of a modern crew and an ancient family, weaving fact and legend into a tale of courage, curiosity, and the unbreakable bonds between people and their world. The original expedition's rookie diver, now a mentor, leads new teams into the field. He trains young explorers, teaching them not just how to dive or analyze artifacts, but how to listen to each other, to the local communities, and to the wisdom of the past. Atlantis showed us what's possible when people work together, he tells them. Discovery isn't about one person's glory. It's about everyone bringing their best and being willing to learn. The Linguist, inspired by the success of decoding the inscription, launches an open-source project to help people everywhere preserve and share their languages and stories. Thousands join in, from elders in remote villages to students in busy cities. The project shows that every language, every story, is part of our shared human heritage, a lesson first learned in the ruins of Atlantis. The marine biologist becomes a global voice for ocean conservation. She stands before the United Nations, holding up a shell from Atlantis and says, "This city was lost because people and nature lost balance. Let's make sure we don't repeat that mistake." Her words spark new partnerships, new marine reserves, and a renewed respect for the blue planet that's still so full of secrets. And the captain? She writes a book about the adventure, but also about the power of wonder. It becomes a bestseller, quoted by leaders, teachers, and dreamers. Her final chapter reads, "Atlantis is not just a place. It's every question we dare to ask, every mystery we chase, every time we reach across boundaries and generations and choose to explore together." As the documentary draws to its close, the camera sweeps over the waves, sunrise glinting on the surface, the ruins of Atlantis resting quietly below. Children play on a beach, building their own lost cities in the sand. Scientists and storytellers gather on ships, ready for the next journey. The spirit of Atlantis lives on, in every heart that refuses to stop searching, every mind open to wonder, and every hand that reaches out to build a better world. Atlantis is all of us, still searching, still dreaming, still discovering. 10 years have passed since the initial discovery, and the world's fascination with Atlantis has only deepened. What was once considered the find of the century has evolved into something far more profound, a catalyst for a new age of exploration and innovation. Dr. Samantha Carter, the former rookie diver who first touched those ancient stones, now leads the International Oceanic Heritage Foundation. Her office walls are lined with photographs of the discovery, maps of the site, and images of the countless artifacts that continue to emerge from the deep. But her favorite item is a simple framed motto: "The best discoveries are yet to come." "We thought finding Atlantis was the end of the story," she explains to a group of young explorers gathered in her conference room. "But it was just the beginning. The technologies we developed to study those ruins have revolutionized marine archaeology worldwide. Indeed, the methods pioneered at the Atlantis site have transformed how humanity explores the ocean depths. Autonomous underwater vehicles with artificial intelligence can now map vast sections of the seafloor in unprecedented detail. Advanced sonar systems can detect structures buried beneath yards of silt. And breakthroughs in underwater conservation allow artifacts to be preserved in their original locations, rather than being brought to the surface. But the technological innovations pale in comparison to the cultural impact. The discovery of Atlantis sparked what journalists have dubbed the Second Age of Exploration, a global renaissance of curiosity about the world's hidden places and forgotten histories. Before Atlantis, we were looking up to the stars for our next frontier, says Captain Maria Chen, who commanded the original research vessel during those historic dives. After Atlantis, we looked back down to the seas and realized we'd been swimming above unexplored worlds our entire history. The most remarkable aspect of this new age is its inclusivity. Unlike exploration's colonial past, today's discoveries are shared instantly with the world. Democracy in action, as schoolchildren in rural areas can watch live streams of underwater excavations alongside university professors and museum curators. In universities across the globe, enrollment in oceanography, marine biology, archaeology, and ancient languages has skyrocketed. Young people inspired by the Atlantis discovery are pursuing careers that might have seemed obscure a decade ago. The term Atlantis generation has emerged to describe these students who grew up watching footage of the famous expedition and dreaming of making their own mark on history. The Atlantis effect goes beyond academic interest, explains Dr. Marcus Wilson, who served as the expedition's geologist. It's changed how we view human capabilities and resilience. Here was a civilization that faced rising seas and devastating climate change. They adapted, they innovated, and though their city was eventually lost, their legacy survived. There's a powerful message there for our own time. That message has resonated particularly strongly in coastal communities threatened by climate change, from the Netherlands to Bangladesh, from Miami to the Maldives. Engineers and urban planners have studied the Atlantean approach to water management. The ancient city's system of canals, elevated buildings, and flexible infrastructure has provided inspiration for modern designs aimed at creating resilience in the face of rising seas. Venice, Italy, itself something of a modern Atlantis, has completely redesigned its flood protection systems based on principles observed in the submerged city. "We were trying to fight the water," explains Venetian engineer Sofia Rossi. "The Atlanteans showed us how to live with it instead, to channel it, use it, respect it. Their city survived underwater for 12,000 years. We would be fools not to learn from their example." But perhaps the most profound impact has been philosophical. The discovery of Atlantis forced humanity to reconsider the timeline of civilization itself. The conventional wisdom that complex urban societies began around 5,000 years ago in Mesopotamia has been thoroughly upended. We now know that advanced human societies existed at least 12,000 years ago, says Dr. Maya Johnson, who led the linguistic team that decoded the Atlantean script. This has completely revolutionized our understanding of human history. It means our ancestors were capable of remarkable engineering and artistic achievements far earlier than we ever imagined. This revelation has led to a re-examination of other ancient myths and legends. Stories once dismissed as fantasies, from the Aboriginal tales of Lemuria to the Hopi legends of previous worlds, are being studied with fresh eyes. Archaeologists are returning to sites long considered fully explored, armed with new technologies and perspectives. "We've become more humble," admits Dr. Johnson. "After Atlantis, we've had to accept that our understanding of the past was incomplete at best. Now, when indigenous communities tell us stories about ancient cities or lost civilizations, we listen with respect rather than skepticism. This new humility has extended beyond archaeology into broader scientific and cultural discourse. The recognition that an advanced civilization could flourish and then vanish so completely from human memory has made scholars more cautious about declaring any mystery solved or any knowledge complete. Meanwhile, at the Atlantis site itself, research continues year-round. The International Atlantis Research Station, a massive floating platform anchored above the ancient city, houses hundreds of scientists, engineers, and support staff. Submersibles depart daily to continue the painstaking work of mapping, excavating, and preserving the site. Recent discoveries have been particularly exciting. Last year, divers located what appears to be a technological workshop on the city's western edge. Among the artifacts recovered were metal alloys with compositions that still puzzle modern metallurgists. Lightweight yet incredibly strong, resistant to corrosion even after millennia underwater. We're not talking about anything supernatural, clarifies Dr. Wilson, but we are seeing evidence of sophisticated scientific knowledge that was subsequently lost. Think about it. If our global civilization somehow collapsed today, how much of our technology and science would survive 1,000 years from now, let alone 12,000? This perspective has sparked renewed interest in practical knowledge preservation. The Global Knowledge Vault, inspired directly by Atlantean record-keeping methods, aims to store crucial scientific, medical, and technological information in formats that could survive catastrophic events. Carved onto specialized ceramic tablets and preserved in multiple secure locations, this modern Library of Alexandria is designed to prevent another dark age, should our current civilization face unforeseen challenges. The Atlanteans clearly tried to preserve their knowledge, notes Dr. Johnson. We found evidence of multiple archive sites throughout the city. They knew their world was changing, and they wanted their discoveries and achievements to survive. In many ways, we're now fulfilling their wishes by recovering and learning from that knowledge. But not all reactions to the Atlantis discovery have been positive. A small but vocal minority of religious fundamentalists has condemned the research as blasphemous, claiming it contradicts creation narratives. Others feed conspiracy theories that governments are hiding the real truth about Atlantis, variously claimed to be alien technology, evidence of time travel, or proof of hollow Earth theories. The fringe elements were inevitable, sighs Captain Chen. Atlantis was a myth for so long that people projected all sorts of fantastic ideas onto it. When the reality turned out to be human, extraordinary humans, but humans nonetheless, some people were bound to be disappointed. Most concerning to the scientific community has been the rise of Atlantis superiority movements, fringe groups that claim the Atlanteans were a superior race whose descendants should rightfully rule the modern world. These groups have attempted to appropriate Atlantean symbols and have even tried to sabotage the research efforts. It's the dark side of discovery, acknowledges Dr. Carter. Throughout history, humans have twisted new knowledge to support old prejudices. Our job is to counter those narratives with facts, transparency, and education. To that end, the International Oceanic Heritage Foundation has launched ambitious outreach programs aimed at making Atlantis research accessible to everyone. Virtual reality experiences allow people to swim through the ancient city from home. Traveling exhibits bring artifacts and interactive displays to communities far from the ocean. And a popular online course series titled Lessons from the Deep has attracted millions of participants worldwide. We want everyone to feel connected to this discovery, explains Dr. Carter. Atlantis doesn't belong to the scientists, or the divers, or the countries whose waters contain the ruins. It belongs to humanity. It's part of our shared heritage and our collective future. That future looks increasingly bright as the second age of exploration expands beyond Atlantis itself. Using techniques and technologies developed at the original site, researchers have identified at least 7 other submerged settlements around the globe, dating from various periods. None match Atlantis in size or technological advancement, but each tells a unique story of human ingenuity and adaptation. Off the coast of India, the legendary city of Dwarka is finally yielding its secrets. In the Caribbean, structures that may correspond to Carib myths of an ancestral homeland are being carefully mapped. And in the North Sea, the lost landscape of Doggerland is revealing evidence of sophisticated hunter-gatherer societies that thrived until rising seas claimed their territory. It's like finding missing chapters from the human story, says Dr. Wilson. We've been reading a book with pages torn out, and suddenly we're discovering those pages preserved in the most unlikely place, under the ocean. The implications extend beyond archaeology into multiple disciplines. Climate scientists study the ancient city for insights into how past societies responded to environmental change. Architects examine Atlantean building techniques for inspiration about sustainable design. Marine biologists document how the ruins have become artificial reefs, supporting vibrant ecosystems. Perhaps most poignantly, the discovery has transformed how many people view the ocean itself. Once seen primarily as a barrier between lands or a resource to be exploited, the sea is increasingly recognized as a keeper of memories, a preserver of history, and a world unto itself worthy of reverence and protection. The Atlanteans understood something we're only beginning to grasp, reflects Captain Chen. The ocean isn't separate from humanity. It's central to our story. It's not just something we cross to get somewhere else. It's a place where much of our history unfolded, and where much of our future will be determined. This philosophy has strengthened the global ocean conservation movement. Marine protected areas have doubled in the decades since the Atlantis discovery. Plastic pollution initiatives have gained unprecedented support, and coastal development increasingly incorporates principles of environmental stewardship alongside human needs, a balance the Atlanteans themselves clearly strove to achieve. But for all the societal and scientific impacts, there remains something deeply personal about the Atlantis story. For millions around the world, it represents the tangible proof that dreams can be real, that legends can contain truth, and that the greatest discoveries can come from asking questions others dismiss as answered or unanswerable. I get letters from children every day, smiles Dr. Carter. They all ask the same thing, not just about Atlantis, but about what else might be waiting out there. What else have we forgotten? What else might we find if we're brave enough to look? It's a question that drives the next generation of explorers, whether they focus on ocean depths, distant planets, or the uncharted territories of human potential. The legacy of Atlantis isn't just in its artifacts or architecture. It's in the spirit of wonder it rekindled in a world that had grown too certain of its knowledge. We thought we knew the shape of human history, says Dr. Johnson. Atlantis reminded us to stay humble, to keep questioning, to remain open to astonishment. That may be its greatest gift to us, not the answers it provided, but the questions it inspired us to ask. As twilight falls over the research station, lights begin to glow beneath the waves, illumination for the night shift of divers and submersibles continuing their careful documentation. From above, these lights trace the outline of the ancient city, a constellation reflected on the ocean's surface. It's a fitting metaphor for Atlantis itself, both beneath us and above us, both ancient history and future possibility, both material discovery and spiritual inspiration. The city that vanished has returned to teach us about resilience, innovation, and humility. The legend that seemed impossible has become the reality that expands our sense of the possible. And the journey that began with a sonar anomaly continues today in classrooms and laboratories, in policy debates and personal reflections, wherever humans gather to consider their place in the long, still unfolding story of life on Earth. But the Atlantis story doesn't end with philosophical reflections. For many, the discovery has ignited a very practical question. If one legendary lost city turned out to be real, what about the others? The success at Atlantis has fueled expeditions seeking other mythic places. El Dorado in South America, Shambhala in the Himalayas, Lemuria in the Indian Ocean. Most will likely prove elusive or entirely fictional, but the search itself has value, opening new archaeological frontiers and deepening our understanding of how stories travel across cultures and generations. Myths often contain kernels of truth, explains Dr. Julian Reeves, a folklorist who joined the Atlantis research team in its third year. The challenge is separating historical fact from metaphorical or spiritual meaning. Both are valuable in different ways. This more nuanced approach to legend and history represents another aspect of the Atlantis effect. The recognition that human knowledge comes in many forms, not all of them documented in ways modern academia traditionally values. Indigenous knowledge, oral histories, and cultural memories once dismissed as just stories are now being treated as potential maps to real discoveries. In Australia, Aboriginal tales of coastal lands swallowed by the sea have led marine archaeologists to significant finds dating back to times when sea levels were much lower. The Atlantis discovery taught us to listen better, says Dr. Reeves. Every culture carries memories of its past, even if those memories are wrapped in layers of symbolism or adapted to serve as moral lessons. Our job isn't to strip away those layers as irrelevant, but to understand why they matter to the people who preserved these stories for centuries. This cross-cultural exchange of knowledge works both ways. As scientific information about Atlantis reaches indigenous communities with their own flood myths and lost homeland stories, many have found validation of traditions their elders kept alive despite colonial dismissal or suppression. My grandmother told me stories about the great waters rising, about our ancestors' first home that sleeps under the waves, shares Kalani Maho, a native Hawaiian cultural practitioner who visited the Atlantis research station last year. Western scholars called it superstition for generations. Now they call it oral history. The difference isn't in our stories, it's in their willingness to hear them. This renewed respect for diverse knowledge systems extends to historical texts once considered more legendary than factual. Scholars are revisiting ancient writings with fresh eyes, from Plato's original account of Atlantis to medieval Arabic geographic texts, from Indian Puranas to Chinese records of foreign lands. We're in the midst of a great reconciliation between different ways of knowing, observes Dr. Johnson. The scientific method remains our most powerful tool for testing hypotheses, but we're learning that the hypotheses themselves can come from anywhere, including sources academics once considered too fanciful to merit serious investigation. This intellectual openness has coincided with remarkable technological innovations that make testing such hypotheses possible. The new generation of deep-sea exploration tools developed after the Atlantis discovery has transformed underwater archaeology from a limited, expensive endeavor to a rapidly expanding field accessible to research teams around the world. Lightweight, affordable, autonomous underwater vehicles now map the seafloor with unprecedented precision. Advanced material science has solved many of the challenges of deep-sea conservation, allowing artifacts to be preserved in situ rather than risking damage by bringing them to the surface. And virtual reality technologies let researchers collaborate across continents, examining digital replicas of underwater sites together in simulated environments that capture every detail of the original. 10 years ago, only a handful of nations had the capability to conduct serious underwater archaeology beyond shallow coastal waters, notes Dr. Carter. Today, teams from dozens of countries are documenting submerged sites worldwide. The democratization of this technology has been as important as the technology itself. This proliferation of research has uncovered evidence of human habitation on continental shelves across the globe, areas that were dry land during the last ice age but submerged as sea levels rose approximately 12,000 years ago. While most were small settlements rather than advanced cities like Atlantis, they collectively represent a vast, previously invisible chapter of human prehistory. We're literally redrawing the maps of human migration and settlement, explains Dr. Wilson. Coastal zones, which are now underwater, were highways of human movement and hotspots of innovation. The conventional narrative that civilization began in a few river valleys like the Nile or Tigris-Euphrates is increasingly untenable. There were complex societies in many places much earlier than we thought. This revelation has forced a reconsideration of how environmental change shapes human history. The end of the last ice age wasn't simply a background event in prehistory. It was perhaps the most dramatic climate transformation humans have ever endured, with sea levels rising more than 400 feet over several thousand years. Imagine watching the coastline advance year after year, generation after generation, says Dr. Wilson. Entire territories vanishing beneath the waves, sacred sites, ancestral graves, hunting grounds, all disappearing. The psychological impact must have been enormous, not to mention the practical challenges of relocation and adaptation. Studies of the Atlantean architectural evolution show how they responded to this slow-motion catastrophe. First with seawalls and elevated structures, later with floating platforms anchored to the seabed, finally with semi-aquatic buildings designed to function both above and below the waterline. Ultimately, even these innovations proved insufficient against the inexorable rise of the ocean. There's a profound humility in studying Atlantis, reflects Captain Chen. Here was a society more technologically advanced than any other of its time, with engineering we still find impressive today. Yet they couldn't stop the sea. They could only adapt for a while, preserve what knowledge they could, and ultimately move on. Nature had the final word. This lesson resonates deeply in our current moment of environmental crisis. Climate scientists and policymakers have found in Atlantis both a warning and an inspiration, a case study in how societies respond to environmental change beyond their control. The difference is that our climate crisis is largely of our own making, notes Dr. Emily Kumar, a climate scientist who studies evidence of ancient climate patterns preserved in the sediments around Atlantis. The Atlanteans faced natural changes they couldn't have prevented. We face changes we have caused and could mitigate if we choose to act collectively. That choice, between adaptation and mitigation, between accepting environmental changes as inevitable and working to prevent the worst of them, has become central to global climate discourse. The Atlantis discovery has added historical perspective to this very contemporary debate. We can learn from how they adapted, says Dr. Kumar. Their water management systems, their resilient architecture, their apparent focus on community cooperation during crisis. These are all relevant to our situation. But we shouldn't resign ourselves to losing our coastal cities as they ultimately lost theirs. We have knowledge and capabilities they couldn't have imagined. Among those capabilities is the ability to share information globally and instantaneously, something the Atlanteans, for all their achievements, could not do. This may prove crucial to avoiding their fate. What's remarkable about the Atlantis research is how collaborative it's been from the start, observes Dr. Reeves. We have teams from dozens of countries working together, sharing data in real time, building on each other's insights. That kind of knowledge sharing across boundaries is exactly what we need to address global challenges like climate change. This spirit of cooperation extends beyond the scientific community. The Atlantis Open Archive initiative makes all research findings, 3D scans of artifacts, translations of texts, and educational resources freely available worldwide. Anyone with internet access can explore the ancient city virtually, read the latest analyses, even contribute to citizen science projects that help process the enormous amounts of data being generated. Knowledge wants to be free, says Dr. Johnson, who spearheaded the Open Archive. The Atlanteans worked so hard to preserve what they knew, not for some elite group, but for future generations, for us. The least we can do is share what we're learning about them as widely as possible. This democratization of knowledge has had unexpected benefits. Innovations inspired by Atlantean designs have emerged from unlikely sources. A 15-year-old in Bangladesh created a flood-resistant housing model based on Atlantean principles that's now being implemented in her coastal community. A farmer in the Netherlands adapted the ancient city's canal system for modern sustainable agriculture. A community college in Florida developed an artificial reef program based on studies of how marine life has colonized the ancient ruins. The most powerful solutions don't always come from traditional centers of power or privilege, notes Dr. Carter. When knowledge is widely shared, innovation can come from anywhere. The Atlanteans understood this. Their city shows evidence of incorporating ideas from many cultures they traded with. We're trying to honor that same spirit of open exchange. Atlantis captures the imagination in a way that abstract concepts often don't, explains Dr. Carter. We've seen students who struggled with traditional education become passionate researchers when given the chance to explore questions related to the ancient city. It provides a narrative framework that makes complex scientific and historical ideas accessible and meaningful. This educational impact extends across age groups and backgrounds. Senior citizens join online courses about Atlantean architecture and engineering. Veterans find healing through underwater archaeology programs that teach diving skills alongside historical research methods. Incarcerated individuals participate in Atlantis-themed educational initiatives that have shown remarkable success in building science literacy and critical thinking skills. The Atlantis effect works because it combines wonder with rigor, says Dr. Johnson. It respects the human need for mystery and discovery, while also demonstrating the power of methodical, evidence-based investigation. That balance is the heart of both good education and good science. As night falls over the research station, the underwater lights illuminating the ancient city create a spectacle visible from passing ships, a glowing metropolis beneath the waves, both ghostly and vibrant. Tourists on cruise ships line the rails to glimpse this modern wonder, while research vessels maintain a respectful distance from the protected site. Above the waves, the research station itself has become an icon of 21st century exploration. Solar panels and wind turbines powering advanced laboratories where scientists from dozens of nations work side by side. Documentary film crews maintain a constant presence, streaming discoveries to audiences worldwide within hours of their first documentation. We're aware of the symbolism, acknowledges Captain Chen, watching a submersible return from its day's mission. This place represents both what we've learned and how much we still have to learn. It's a monument to human achievement, theirs and ours, but also to human humility in the face of forces larger than ourselves. That dual awareness of human capability and human limitation may be the most profound legacy of the Atlantis discovery. In an age often characterized by either boundless technological optimism or apocalyptic environmental despair, the ancient city offers a more nuanced perspective, a testament to human ingenuity and adaptability, but also a reminder of our ultimate dependence on natural systems we can influence but never fully control. What gives me hope, reflects Dr. Carter, watching the next generation of young researchers prepare for tomorrow's dives, is seeing how the Atlantis story has changed our sense of time and possibility. We think in longer timescales now. We see ourselves as part of a human journey that stretches thousands of years behind us, and hopefully, thousands more ahead. That perspective makes today's challenges seem more manageable, not because they're small, but because our capacity for resilience and reinvention is so much greater than we realized. As the research enters its second decade, plans are already underway for the next phase of exploration, not just deeper into Atlantis itself, but outward to the network of smaller settlements that once surrounded it, and inward to the core questions of how an advanced civilization responds to existential environmental change. The work never really ends, smiles Dr. Wilson. Each answer leads to new questions. Each discovery reveals new mysteries. But that's the beauty of exploration. Not just finding what you're looking for, but discovering what you never knew to seek. In museums and classrooms, in research vessels and policy forums, in virtual reality experiences and scientific laboratories, the legacy of Atlantis continues to unfold. The city that vanished beneath the waves has resurfaced in humanity's consciousness, challenging our understanding of history, technology, and our relationship with the natural world. Some discoveries change what we know, reflects Dr. Johnson. Others change how we know, and even why we seek knowledge in the first place. Atlantis has done all three. It's not just a lost city anymore. It's a new lens through which we see ourselves, our past, and our possible futures. On the horizon, new research vessels depart for distant waters, carrying teams inspired by the Atlantis success to search for other submerged settlements around the globe. The quest continues, driven by the knowledge that beneath the seemingly empty surface of the sea lies evidence of human journeys and achievements long forgotten but waiting to be rediscovered. And beneath the waves at the original site, the ancient city rests in its blue twilight, no longer lost, no longer merely legendary, but a tangible link between past and future, between what humanity has already accomplished and what we might yet become. This is the true legacy of Atlantis, not just a story of what was found, but an invitation to keep searching, to keep questioning, to keep reaching across time and space to connect with both our ancestors and our descendants in the long shared adventure of human discovery. The search for Atlantis began with a myth and led to a milestone in human understanding. But like all great explorations, its greatest value lies not in reaching the destination, but in the journeys it continues to inspire, beneath the waves, across disciplines, and into the boundless depths of human potential. As dawn breaks over the research station, a new day of discovery begins. The ancient city waits below, still holding secrets, still offering lessons, still connecting us to those who came before and those who will follow. The greatest chapters of the Atlantis story are still being written, not just by archaeologists and scientists, but by everyone who looks at the world with renewed wonder and asks, what else might be waiting to be found? What else might we become when we find it? The legend has become reality, and reality has surpassed the legend. But the mystery remains, not diminished by discovery, but deepened and enriched. And in that mystery lies the eternal appeal of Atlantis, a reminder that the most important treasures are not gold or jewels or even knowledge itself, but the endless human capacity for wonder, resilience, and hope. In coastal communities worldwide, a new generation grows up with Atlantis not as a fairy tale, but as a historical case study with direct relevance to their lives. Children in Vietnam, Bangladesh, the Netherlands, and New Orleans share classroom connections, discussing how Atlantean adaptation strategies might apply to their own vulnerable regions. This Atlantis curriculum has become a model for place-based education that connects global knowledge with local challenges. What's powerful about teaching through the Atlantis lens is that it combines scientific understanding with cultural meaning, explains education specialist Dr. Teresa Goldman. Atlantis has become a cultural touchstone, observes Dr. Reeves. Artists are using it to explore our deepest questions about civilization, what we build, what we lose, what remains, what transforms. It's fascinating to watch a scientific discovery evolve into such rich metaphorical territory. The story has particularly resonated with diaspora communities worldwide. People whose ancestors experienced displacement, whether through colonization, war, environmental disaster, or economic necessity, have found in Atlantis a powerful historical parallel to their own family histories. The Atlanteans became refugees, notes community organizer Miguel Sanchez, whose organization works with climate migrants in Central America. They lost their homeland but preserved their knowledge and culture as they integrated into new societies. That's a story many of our families understand intimately. It changes how we see ourselves, not just as victims of displacement, but as carriers of resilience and wisdom that the wider world needs. This reframing of displacement narratives highlights another unexpected impact of the Atlantis discovery: its influence on how societies think about migration in an era of increasing climate instability. The Atlantis research has made it impossible to maintain the fiction that national borders are fixed or natural, explains Dr. Park. We now have concrete evidence that human communities have been forced to relocate by environmental changes throughout history. The question isn't whether migration will happen as climate changes accelerate, it's how we'll respond to this recurring pattern in human experience. Policy discussions about climate migration increasingly reference the Atlantis model, the evidence that the ancient city's inhabitants dispersed in planned waves over generations, carrying cultural knowledge and technological skills that enriched the societies that received them. This historical perspective has helped shift discourse away from crisis narratives toward more adaptive, humanitarian frameworks. When we look at climate migration purely as a security threat or emergency, we miss the historical pattern Atlantis reveals. says United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Amina Osei. Population movements driven by environmental change have always been part of human experience. Societies that approach this reality with compassion and foresight ultimately benefit from the knowledge, skills, and perspectives newcomers bring. This more nuanced understanding of migration as adaptation rather than crisis represents another way the Atlantis discovery has deepened humanity's historical consciousness. Our awareness of being part of patterns and processes that unfold across timescales far longer than individual lifetimes or even civilizational periods. We tend to think in such short time frames, reflects Dr. Wilson. Election cycles, quarterly profits, 5-year plans at best. Atlantis forces us to think in terms of centuries and millennia. The timescales on which climate changes, populations move, cultures evolve. That longer view doesn't make today's decisions less urgent, but it does place them in a context that can make them more wise. This expanded temporal perspective has proven especially valuable in discussions about cultural preservation in the face of environmental threats. The Atlanteans didn't try to physically preserve their entire city as the waters rose, an impossible task, but they clearly invested enormous resources in preserving cultural knowledge, technological expertise, and artistic traditions that could survive the loss of their physical homeland. There's a profound lesson there for communities facing displacement today, notes cultural heritage specialist Dr. Yasmin Al-Azhari. When places become uninhabitable, whether from rising seas, desertification, or other climate impacts, the question becomes what to save, what to let go, how to preserve the essence of cultural identity while adapting to new circumstances. The Atlanteans offer a historical case study in making these wrenching choices with foresight and wisdom. Coastal communities from Louisiana to the Pacific Islands have developed cultural continuity plans, inspired by the Atlantean example, documenting traditional knowledge, preserving artifacts and archives in inland locations, and creating educational programs to ensure younger generations maintain connection to places that may physically disappear within their lifetimes. The goal isn't to freeze culture in amber, explains Marshall Islands preservation specialist Limana Takahashi. It's to maintain the living thread of identity and knowledge through periods of profound change, just as the Atlanteans did. They didn't disappear when their city drowned. They transformed and continued, carrying their essence into new contexts. This emphasis on continuity amid transformation reflects perhaps the most profound philosophical impact of the Atlantis discovery. Its challenge to binary thinking that separates success from failure, preservation from adaptation, endings from beginnings. In Western thought especially, we tend to categorize Atlantis as a tragedy, a civilization that ended, a city that was lost, observes Dr. Reeves. But the evidence suggests the Atlanteans themselves may have viewed their story differently, not as an ending, but as a transformation, not as a loss, but as a transition. Their careful preservation efforts suggest they were thinking of future generations who would carry their knowledge forward in new forms and contexts. This more cyclical perspective on civilizational change has influenced discussions about contemporary climate adaptation. Rather than framing climate action as either preventing collapse or accepting doom, the Atlantis discovery suggests a middle path, recognizing that significant changes are inevitable, that some losses cannot be prevented, but that human ingenuity, foresight, and cooperation can ensure continuity of what matters most across even the most profound transitions. The binary save everything or lose everything framing paralyzes action, notes climate psychologist Dr. Park. The Atlantis story offers a more nuanced mental model. Yes, their city was ultimately lost to the sea, but their knowledge, their cultural achievements, many of their innovations survived through their careful planning and foresight. That's not a story of simple success or failure. It's a story of partial preservation through intentional adaptation. This perspective has proven especially powerful for communities already experiencing severe climate impacts, from Alaskan villages relocating due to coastal erosion to Pacific Island nations planning for futures with significantly less habitable land. The Atlantis discovery hasn't made our situation less serious, says climate justice advocate Moana Kauvaka from Tuvalu. but it has given us a longer historical context that helps us maintain our dignity and agency. We're not the first people to face rising seas and forced relocation. The Atlanteans faced the same reality thousands of years ago, and aspects of their civilization survived. That knowledge doesn't solve our practical challenges, but it does strengthen our spiritual and psychological resilience. This sense of connection across millennia to others who faced similar challenges represents another dimension of the Atlantis effect. The collapse of psychological distance between ancient peoples and modern societies, between their challenges and ours. Before the discovery, it was easy to think of ancient civilizations as fundamentally different from us, simpler, more primitive, facing challenges that modern technology has overcome, says Dr. Carter. Atlantis shatters that comfortable illusion. Here was a sophisticated urban society facing climate change, rising seas, the need for sustainable adaptation, the very challenges at the heart of our contemporary experience. The main difference is that they faced these realities without fossil fuels and modern technology, relying instead on remarkable engineering ingenuity and social cooperation. This recognition of shared challenges across vast time spans has fostered a new humility in technological societies, an awareness that advanced in our future, about our relationship with the natural world, about what we value and what we leave behind, about how we face inevitable changes and what we carry forward through transformations. Atlantis reminds us that the most valuable natural resource isn't oil or minerals or even water, reflects Captain Chen. It's human ingenuity, cooperation, and wisdom. Those are renewable resources that grow stronger the more we use them. The Atlanteans cultivated those resources intensively, and their legacy survived even when their physical city could not. As the divers disappear beneath the waves, their lights creating a moving constellation that traces the outlines of the ancient streets, the research continues, not just into what Atlantis was, but into what it means for who we might become. The lost city has been found, but its greatest discoveries still lie ahead. In the labs and classrooms, policy forums and community gatherings, creative studios and spiritual communities where its lessons continue to resonate and evolve. This sense of connection across millennia to others who faced similar challenges represents another dimension of the Atlantis effect. The collapse of psychological distance between ancient peoples and modern societies, between their challenges and ours. Before the discovery, it was easy to think of ancient civilizations as fundamentally different from us, simpler, more primitive, facing challenges that modern technology has overcome, says Dr. Carter. Atlantis shatters that comfortable illusion. Here was a sophisticated urban society facing climate change, rising seas, the need for sustainable adaptation, the very challenges at the heart of our contemporary experience. The main difference is that they faced these realities without fossil fuels and modern technology, relying instead on remarkable engineering ingenuity and social cooperation. This recognition of shared challenges across vast time spans has fostered a new humility in technological societies. An awareness that advanced technology alone doesn't guarantee successful adaptation to environmental change, and that earlier societies may have developed social and cultural resources for resilience that modern ones have neglected. We keep looking to Atlantis for technological secrets, observes Dr. Wilson. But their most valuable lessons may be social and cultural, how they maintained cohesion during crisis, how they balanced individual freedom with collective action, how they cultivated the long-term thinking needed for successful adaptation to slow-moving environmental challenges. This search for the social and cultural dimensions of resilience has inspired new research directions, from detailed analysis of Atlantean decision-making structures to studies of how they commemorated losses and celebrated continuities as their environment changed. The physical artifacts are just the beginning, explains Dr. Johnson. We're now piecing together their worldview, their values, their understanding of themselves in relation to the natural world. That's challenging work because it requires looking beyond material remains to the meaning systems that guided how those materials were used and valued. This meaning-centered approach has attracted theologians, philosophers, and spiritual leaders to join the conversation about Atlantis and its contemporary significance. Interfaith dialogues explore how the ancient city's apparent integration of technological advancement with spiritual awareness might inform modern approaches to environmental ethics and sustainable development. The evidence suggests the Atlanteans didn't separate technological progress from cultural wisdom or spiritual practice, notes religious studies scholar Dr. Ibrahim Rahman. Their architecture shows attention not just to material function, but to alignment with celestial movements and natural energies. Their governance appears to have integrated technical expertise with ethical principles and communal values. That integration offers a powerful counterpoint to modern tendencies to separate technological advancement from moral reasoning. This holistic perspective has influenced sustainability initiatives worldwide, encouraging approaches that address not just technical solutions, but the cultural values, spiritual meanings, and social structures that enable or constrain sustainable practices. We won't solve 21st century challenges with technical fixes alone, argues sustainability expert Dr. Maya Patel. The Atlantean example suggests we need integrated approaches that engage both advanced technology and deeper cultural wisdom, that address both how we build our cities and how we understand our place in the world. Their civilization appears to have maintained this integration for thousands of years before the environmental changes finally overwhelmed them. We have much to learn from how they achieved that balance. As the sun sets over the research station, the team prepares for a night dive, a special expedition to document bioluminescent organisms that have colonized certain sections of the ancient ruins. The divers check their equipment with practiced efficiency, their excitement palpable despite having visited the site hundreds of times before. That's the thing about Atlantis, smiles Dr. Carter, watching the preparation. No matter how many times you dive there, it never becomes routine. There's always something new to discover, some detail you missed before, some question you hadn't thought to ask. This endless capacity for discovery reflects the true legacy of Atlantis. Not just the answers it has provided, but the questions it continues to inspire. Questions about our history and our future, about our relationship with the natural world, about what we value and what we leave behind, about how we face inevitable changes and what we carry forward through transformations. Atlantis reminds us that the most valuable natural resource isn't oil or minerals or even water, reflects Captain Chen. It's human ingenuity, cooperation, and wisdom. Those are renewable resources that grow stronger the more we use them. The Atlanteans cultivated those resources intensively, and their legacy survived even when their physical city could not. As the divers disappear beneath the waves, their lights creating a moving constellation that traces the outlines of the ancient streets, the research continues, not just into what Atlantis was, but into what it means for who we might become. The lost city has been found, but its greatest discoveries still lie ahead. In the labs and classrooms, policy forums and community gatherings, creative studios and spiritual communities where its lessons continue to resonate and evolve. The legend that became reality has now become something more, a conversation across time, a collaboration between past and present, a shared project of discovery that connects people across all boundaries of geography, discipline, and belief in the common pursuit of understanding and wisdom. And beneath the waves, the ancient city waits, still teaching, still challenging, still inspiring. Its stones still speaking to those with patience to listen and courage to hear tales that stretch far beyond a single lifetime or a single civilization, into the vast, continuing story of humanity's journey on a changing Earth. Rest easy and stay chill. Thank you all for enjoying today's content. Make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our awesome new videos. And wish you a nice day.